Shalom, one of the souls by giving no praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahshua, B'Shem, Kakadash. Double honors to the Apostle Great Most, and honors you brothers doing the work of the Most High in truth and in sincerity. Yahweh's real name, whom the world English calls God, Jehovah, or Yahweh. His real name is Yahweh, and his son's true name is Yahweh Shai. And then we pray Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahshua, meaning in, Her meaning the, and Sham meaning names, Yahweh, the name of Yahweh Shai. Right, and I titled this one, it's a beautiful day, man. Hey, it's like the sun's shining in London. The weather's good, and Israel has attacked Iran, man. It's a beautiful day. Now we understand that there will be wars and rumors of wars, and we know that the end is not yet. So let's what's going on there? Let's jump to that real quick, right? This is Matthew 24:6 says, and you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Right. So this is certainly just something that we're just keeping an eye out for. Right, because it's a good development. It's one of the things I was thinking. As I was just coming back from a walk just now, was this world can really wear you out. Right, let's grab that real quick. This is Daniel 7:25, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until the time and the times and the dividing of time. But the point that I wanted there, shall wear out the saints. Right, this world, wear you out. It's just a drag. Right, this particular world, you will be going through whatever it is, that we've got to go through. Right, but it's things like this that put a smile on our face, man. Woke up, I switched my data off at night, woke up in the morning, just like lots of notifications, right? Put a grin on my face. So Kal Halal Yaba Shim Yal Shai. Now we understand that the end is not yet. We still need the MOTB, right? But this is certainly the things that we look for. Right, these are certainly the things that we look for that put a smile on our face. And I'm thinking of this precept. How's it phrased? It's in Luke. Is it this? No. It's in Luke somewhere. Yeah. Right. It says Luke 21 and and 28, it says, and when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for redemption draweth nigh. And that's it, right? We're lifting up our heads, right? Because the signs are there, right? The signs are there. In fact, I believe, this is about to go into it, right? And he spake, verse 29, he spake to them a parable. Behold, the fig tree and all the trees, when they now shoot forth, ye see and know of your own selves that summer is now nigh at hand. So likewise ye, when ye see these things come to pass, know ye that the kingdom of the Most High is nigh at hand. And that's it, man. Hey, we can feel this thing is close, right? As we said, we understand that this isn't the end, right? But this is another notch towards what it is that we're looking for, right? And some of the things that we're seeing, right, in terms of this, like for instance, it started at 03:30, right, Israel time, right? So that was about like 1 GMT, 1 a.m. GMT, which is around 3:30. So you're seeing that 33 in there, right? So this is these, and also Friday the 13th of June as well, right? So we go and see what happens, right? A few headlines. It's funny because it's like the first couple of headlines that kind of came out on this particular story, right, kept using this term here, preemptive, right? And the Spirit did a video, which is ironic because I did a video on manufacturing consent the other day, right? And I'd even pick up, right, on this particular word here that's used, right, preemptive. That is a statement used to manufacture consent, right? Because you had people on online that basically crossed out that word preemptive and replaced it with the word unprovoked, right? Because really that's what it should say, right? Israel begins unprovoked strike against Iran, right? They were just doing what it is that they were doing, right? And a few points have been made about Kim Jong-un, right? He has nukes. Why hasn't he used them? Right? Because it's like, people understand the concept of mutually assured destruction, right? That's why when you speak to people throughout the world, right, I'll be at work or whatever, and the topic of war and nuclear war will come up, right? And people will be like, they will never never do that, right? Which, when you think about it logically, yeah, why would they, shoot nukes, right? Once again, mutually assured destruction, right? But that's why it's a thing that's going to be beyond man, right? Because it's the Most High that wants this to happen. This is Ezekiel 38 and 10. In fact, I may jump back up to the top, right? It says, "Thus saith the Lord power, it shall come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought, right? And thou shalt say, I'll go up to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest, right? That dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls, having neither bars nor gates." Right. So that evil thought is to press that button, right? Once again, if you're a you know, if you're a sane man, you'd never press that button, right? Because you know what's going to happen. You look at the power of these nuclear weapons, the destruction they can do, and it's not just like the conventional weapons where you can just go in. It may take like 10 years to clean up the land, right? And then you can rebuild, right? Such as has happened, for instance, post World War II, you had certain places, right, that were completely destroyed, right, but they were able to build back up, right? But with these nukes, you can't live there anymore. And then the radioactive wind, if you will, right, will basically spread throughout the earth, right, poisoning people and stuff like that, right? But once again, this isn't the thoughts of man, right? This is the thoughts and will and intent of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, right? To basically get to finalize this story. All right, let's read this, right? This is Isaiah 13:17. It says, "Behold, I'll stir up the Medes against them." Right? So the Lord's going to put the spirit in these, because that's what Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, is going into, right? Right? It's referencing, these Russians, right? It says, "Behold, I'll stir up the Medes," right? The Russians today. It says, "Against them, right, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eye shall not spare children," right? Because when these nukes, they're not gonna be like, "Oh no, this is a woman, this is a child," right? I'm not gonna, attack. No, look, man, when these missiles fly, it's peak, innit? As we say, right? It's peak, right? So yeah, so that was this one. Yeah, just being careful of certain of the terminology that Esau will use, right? Because Israel begins unprovoked strike against Iran. Because mind you, if it was the other way around, it would be Iran. Begins. They would never use the word preemptive, right? They would use the word unprovoked, right? And then if Iran does do something, they're gonna completely forget that Israel were the ones to attack. And in fact, there was a post. Right, I'll see if I can find it. Right, but there was a post by the Iranian military that was basically saying, "Look, remember, we didn't start it." Right, and that's it, right? Because this is Esau. That's his spirit, right? In fact, makes me think. Let's grab that. In Hebrews, right? Right, this is Hebrews 12:17. I'll start from 16. Right, it says, "Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright." This is the kind of character that we're dealing with, the character with no integrity, a character that is just full of shit, man. Right, and when you're listening to that, the leader of that country, man, which I hate hearing him speak, man. I hate hearing that guy speak. Can't wait. And this is the thing. These are the things, once again, where that gives us joy, right? The hope that our enemies are gonna be brought low and brought down, right? Because I can't wait for the Lord to do whatever He's gonna do to that individual, man. This is Sirach 25:7. It says, "There be 9 things which I have judged in mine heart to be happy, and the 10th I will utter with my tongue. A man that hath joy of his children, and he that liveth to see the fall of his enemy." We can't wait to see the fall of our enemies, man. We can't wait to see this devil going down. Right, which is why, once again, it's like the rest of the world right now is like, "Oh no, will there be war? Will there be war?" We're there like rubbing our hands like, "Hey, Kal Halal, Yahweh Hashem Yahushua." Once again, it's a beautiful day, man. It is a beautiful day, right? And once again, we understand that the end is not yet, right? That prophecies have to be fulfilled, right, and stuff. But as things are today, it's just like, yeah, it's just we're a step in the right direction, okay? Because at some point, Iran's gonna have to actually respond, right? Iran just keeps saber rattling, keeps saying, "Oh, we can't believe you did this," and then just let Israel get away with it again, right? So yeah, so that's one of the things that we're looking for, man. Right, so back in Hebrews 12:17 now, right, it says, "For ye know how that afterward, when he would have inherited the blessing, he was rejected. For he found no place of repentance, though he sought it carefully with tears." Right, this is the kind of character we're dealing with. He will do wrong, right? And then when he doesn't get what he wants, he forgets that he's done wrong, right? And then he tries to play the victim, tries to play innocent. It's like, nah, bro, you did it, okay? So we're just hoping, and waiting to see what happens here. Hoping that these guys actually actually do something, right? So this is, and you see the hubris, right? I was messaging a brother earlier on, and he used that word hubris, right? It says Trump urges Iran to make nuclear deal, right, with next planned attacks even more brutal. So it's like, wait there, didn't you know about it, or did you not know, or did you know about it, right? So hey, that's beautiful to see. It says the thousands of aircraft that fly between Europe, North America, and Asia moved away from Iranian airspace on 13th June after Israel struck the country with missiles. Aircraft moving east or west through the region instead flew over Saudi Arabia, right, then south of Israel and over Sinai Peninsula in Egypt. The Gulf region is home to two leading transcontinental hubs, Qatar and Dubai. Since the closure of Russian airspace to many airlines after its full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the region has become one of the main pinch points in global air transport between the East and Western Hemisphere, right? Because I know Etihad flies basically, over, over basically, I'm trying to remember where it is. Basically, it flies over this particular region, right? Basically borders over I'm trying to remember where is this. It's like I'm forgetting my geography right now, right? Well, basically, yeah, it goes over one of them regions, like in between here, right? So basically it's one of them ones where obviously the airlines are going to be moving, away from that region, right? It says a declaration of war. Israel strikes on Iran today in Focus Extra podcast, right? And one of the things as well people said was like, wait there, so you can have a missile, right, that directly targets someone, right? So I believe that's this building and doesn't bring down the whole building, right? So what have they been doing over there in Gaza? Right, so really they're telling on themselves. They have the capabilities to do targeted strikes, but instead in Gaza they just leveled the entire building regardless of who's inside. Right, similar thing here, right? So Al Jazeera, right? Which I'm like, wait there, why would you attack a nuclear site? It's just like that makes no damn sense, attacking a nuclear site, because then now you keep seeing Iran saying that reporting to the IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, or whatever, right, that basically they've not observed any leaks. So it's like, wait there, so attacking a nuclear site can cause radioactive issues. Why are you attacking it? Makes no sense. But this is the devil that we're dealing with, okay? But yeah, man, that's pretty much the point. In fact, let me grab this as well before we head out. In fact, I'm gonna load that one up, right, and grab a few actually. It's in Jeremiah 49 and 20, right? It says, therefore hear the counsel of Yahweh that he taketh against Edom, and his purpose that he hath purpose against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out, right? Surely he shall make their their habitations desolate with them, right? And that's it, right? The least of the flock are basically bringing in these other Edomites, right, primarily America, right, into this war, right? And we're going to end up in a situation where, as pertaining to the scriptures, right, that the current allies that America has going to turn, man, right? Because it's like, here it is, we're going to observe, what the response will be, right? throughout the world. But you can expect something to happen with oil prices and stuff like that, especially dependent on the Iranian response, right? Whether it's a thing where they start bombing refineries, because what's that going to do? That's going to completely destabilize the oil markets. Okay. So yeah, it's people are getting annoyed and pissed off with Israel, right, and America, because it's like, bro, we just trying to chill, right? But you keep doing stuff, right? Which, hey, we're like, keep doing stuff, right? And Iran bloody respond, man, right? Stop saber stop, just letting these gutter rats get away with it, okay? This is Second Ezra 15 and 28. It says, behold, an horrible vision, and the appearance thereof from the east, where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon earth, and that all they which hear them may fear and tremble. Also the Carmanians, raging in wrath, shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood. With great power shall they come, and join them with the battle, and shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. Right, and then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature, and if they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in great power to persecute them. Right. So basically what you're seeing here is for instance, Carmania, right? So when you look at where General Soleimani was killed, he was killed in a place called Kerman, right, from which you get Carmania. Oh, let me just pull it up, just preparing it. Kerman city in Iran. Right, let's pull it up here. Right, that's basically where they killed if I remember correctly, General Soleimani or something like that, right? So yeah, this is in this particular region, in Iran, right? So we can tell that that's who we're referring to, right? And there's gonna come a time when these Arab nations are gonna remember their nature, man. And once again, it's beautiful watching these prophecies come to pass. That's why once again titled a beautiful day, right? Because once again, we know that the end is not yet, but we know we're definitely in the walking in the right direction. Right, so I'm gonna read Ezekiel 38, and then I'm gonna close up to it, because we understand that Russia in these last days is gonna be a guard unto these nations, because right now, right, they can kind of just do what they want, right, these other nations to to Iran and stuff like that. And that's one of the reasons why Israel is so proud, right? Because they know they got Iran on their side, so they got America on their side. But when I was reading some of the news reports, China gets a bit of oil from Iran, right? So they it's certainly in China's interest to keep Iran's refineries safe, right? And it's also, as pertaining to prophecy, in Russia's interest to keep Iran safe. Ezekiel 38 and 1 says, and the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Right? Why prophesy against him? Because they're still heathen, they're still Edomites, right? These Russians, right? Because this is what this is representing, right? And say, thus saith the Lord, power against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I'll turn thee back, right? Basically put you back into that Soviet style mentality, right? So I'll put hooks into thy jaws, and I'll bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. And even the first nation mentioned here, right, Persia, right, which that's Iran, right, Ethiopia and Libya, with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer, which is Turkey, and all his bands, right, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared, right, and prepare for thyself, thou and all that company that assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them, right? Which is why they be selling them S400s, Russians be selling them S400s and stuff like that. Okay, so we're gonna, we're gonna keep an eye out on what's happening, right? What the Iranian response will be. We hope that it's gonna be spicy, saucy, right? But one thing we do know for sure is the fire rises. As always, I was edifying. Until next time, we say shalom.